About the Hillary Clinton email investigation the FBI released on Friday. Quote, Clinton did not recall receiving any emails she thought should not be on an unclassified system. That despite the fact some of those emails discussed possible future drone strikes against suspected terrorists. Here's another one. Clinton, quote, could not recall any briefing or training by state related to the retention of federal records or handling classified information. To the Clinton campaign, the documents support the decision by the FBI not to seek criminal charges. Donald Trump, though, says Clinton answers, quote, defy belief. After reading these documents, Mr. Trump said in a statement Friday, I really don't understand how she was able to get away from prosecution. This is going to come up in that debate 3 weeks from tomorrow, but it is striking. Dan, you and I have covered the Clintons for a long time. She says she's the detail person. She says sometimes, forgive me, I'm a nerd, I'm a policy wonk, I like to get into the detail. Bill Clinton would meet somebody he hadn't seen in 20 years and remember what the guy was eating when he last saw him. And yet you read through this 39 times in a 3-hour interview. She said, I do not recall, I do not recall, I do not recall.
Well, the other thing we know about the Clintons is that they've been through many investigations, many scandals, and many situations in which a smart lawyer will say to a client, you know, you don't have to answer that fully, and if you don't recall, you don't recall. And so she went through that process with them, and there's a lot of in that, as you say, in which she has an incomplete memory. I think that, you know, the bottom line on this is that people will take away from it what they already brought to this issue of the emails. People have strong views about this, and they're not good for Hillary Clinton. I don't think this is going to significantly change that.
You make a key point. It's not significantly change that. So it's, if you think she's dishonest, if you think she's untrustworthy, the cement hardens. And if you're for her, you just sort of roll your eyes and say, well, I got to deal with this.
But I do think a lot of the different discussions we've had about email and pay for play, and, you know, we get further in the weeds, it gets a little bit difficult to digest, and, you know, you come away with the notion that she's untrustworthy, but it's a really specific example that you get coming out of these reports to say Hillary Clinton was emailing about a covert drone strike operation. Everyone knows this is a covert program. So to be able to take an example like that onto the debate stage, or even as a debate moderator, and say, this is something that's really easy for everyone who's watching at home to understand. Hillary Clinton was emailing about drone strikes and didn't think that was a problem to do from an insecure server. I think that there is a little bit more potency in that than we've seen from some of the other things that we've learned about her emails that have been a little harder to understand.
And there's a difference between, there's a difference between something that's not criminal and something that's still unacceptable to people. I think that's what these emails or these transcripts highlight, is that maybe there was nothing criminal in there. They couldn't levy charges against her, but there was still quite a bit that was unacceptable and surprising and shocking to a lot of voters. I think this will matter because it really, I think for people, it sort of defies their common sense test, and that's a problem.
And this is also a fantastic issue for Donald Trump. He's someone who has trouble staying on message, but the one message he's really been able to alight on is Hillary Clinton being dishonest, being untrustworthy, playing by a different set of rules. And every time there's a new sort of drip, drip, drip out of this genre, he will hammer it from the campaign trail. And it's sort of the one thing that can really focus him in a way that's compelling to voters.
John, I think another aspect of this is FBI Director Comey, who on the one hand decided there wasn't a case that could be won and therefore did not recommend prosecution, and yet in some way or another has clearly been offended by the way she handled this whole process. And so he has continued, starting with the press conference and continuing through this, to push out information that has been harmful to her.
And a lot of people think as we get to Labor Day, and we're going to get to some of the numbers in a minute, but a lot of people think the race is over, the race is baked because of her lead in some battleground states. Among those who does not is the great Peter Hart. He's a Democratic pollster. He's also one of the masters of conducting focus groups. He had a focus group for the Annenberg Public Policy Center in Milwaukee a week or so ago, and this jumped out at him. He says their lack of trust about Hillary Clinton stems from a perception of her lack of openness and transparency. Several swing voters explain that when these issues arise, she comes across as defensive and dismissive. No doubt about it. And no doubt your colleague Karen Tumulty had a lengthy piece going back to the Whitewater investigation about how the Clintons handle these kind of things. And there's no question she has reason to be, to think Republicans are out to get her. But there's also no question that she retreats into what even some of her friends call paranoia about these things.
And historically, if you look at Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, she's been the hardliner on this. Right. She has been the more resistant. She's the one who has said, no, 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 we should not give up anything.
And yet her running mate, it's been, what are we at, 275 days since a formal press conference. I think I'm in agreement with those at the table. This will change before the debate. She's not going to go into the debate, which is in 3 weeks from tomorrow, and have Donald Trump say, it's been almost 300 days since you had a press conference. So she'll have at least one, if not two, before then. But this whole issue of Clinton transparency, Clinton openness, Clinton accessibility, listen to Tim Kaine, a running mate here. God bless the people who get to be vice presidential nominees because they have to say things like this.
Well, look, I don't see what the massive difference is between a press conference and talking to the press everywhere you go. She talks to the press a lot, and I've been with her when she's talked to the press.
Can we just say, though, that both of these campaigns are just horrible on transparency? I mean, they like to jab each other on this issue, and as journalists, we want more questions. We want more press conferences, and we absolutely think that Hillary Clinton should be taking questions from the press regularly, which she does not do regularly. She does not hold press conferences. But Donald Trump flew to Mexico and left his traveling press corps behind. Donald Trump does not let reporters approach him and ask him questions on the rope line. Hillary Clinton will start flying with her press on a plane. Donald Trump will not. Donald Trump has a blacklist of media organizations he doesn't let into his events. Neither of these candidates really has a leg to stand on when it comes to pointing a finger of transparency at the
There's one key passage from the 58 pages about
candidates really has a leg to stand on when it comes to pointing a finger of transparency at the